Geraldo, tomorrow it's good news that Michael Bloomberg is not on the Nevada caucus slate because a couple of nights ago at the big debate, he was terrible.
He laid a big bomb. Lisa, remember 4 years ago?
I do. Yeah, we were in Virginia together. Or no, we were in New York together.
See how soon they forget.
I do remember.
Okay, it was a debate in Hofstra University. It was 3 in the morning. I think that Bloomberg laid a big fat egg. It was political malpractice. He was so woefully unprepared. It was
what is that,
a
ego?
Shameful performance.
Is it ego?
Howard Wolfson said it was up to him to prepare him. He takes responsibility.
I don't think that anyone can take responsibility for a person not briefing themselves on the 3 questions. You know, they're going to ask you about stop and frisk. They're going to ask you about minority relations with the cops. They're going to ask you about spending your money to, basically buy the Democratic nomination. You have to have answers ready for these things.
How about minorities don't know how to work in the workplace? They don't know how to act in the workplace. These aren't opinions. These are sound bites.
When you think of the fact that he has thousands of people working for him, why he didn't have 1 or 2 guys to give him 6 zinger lines that you can use in the debate, and then to seem like the deer caught in the headlights and get beat up by Elizabeth Warren and the others, I just think it was a performance that bordered on malpractice.
But why was there was such a propping up of Bloomberg before the debate? I mean, the media was covering him. He got a lot of endorsements, yet he hadn't been on the debate stage or even gotten a single delegate. So why the propping up of Bloomberg?
Because you have to separate the substance of the man from the mechanics of politics. You understand politics. He clearly did not understand that this was a political environment. Bloomberg, I like Bloomberg. A lot of people who were here in New York during his 12 years and following the 8 years of Rudy Giuliani really appreciated that they brought some order.
He was competent.
Over 2,000 murders a year. Excuse me. From over 2,000 murders a year to, around 300. I mean, that's a dramatic improvement. New York became the safest big city on earth. People were making money, prospering, jobs were happening. He was an excellent mayor who became an absolute flop when he came to a presidential candidate. It's arrogance, hubris.
Is it over?
You know, because of the process and because of the way the Democrats allocate delegates. It's possible that in Super Tuesday, because the other candidates can't campaign in the way he can with his hundreds of millions of dollars, it's possible that he'll siphon enough of the middle-of-the-road Democrats that it will be a contested convention, and maybe they can stop Sanders. But I'm saying that right now, Bernie Sanders is the odds-on favorite, which shapes up to be the most sharply ideological decision the American voters have made since Roosevelt versus Herbert Hoover in the Great Depression. It's right-left. It's socialism versus capitalism. It's going to be a stark choice. But I also think if you underestimate Bernie Sanders and that energy, you do so at your peril.
Absolutely. A binary choice. Nonetheless, given Bloomberg's terrible performance, it did give the President of the United States something to talk about. He was in Colorado Springs last night. He was at the Broadmoor. And the first thing we're going to play is where he's talking about Mayor Bloomberg. But, of course, he refers to him as, here's the president.
Mini Mike didn't do well last night. I was going to send him a note saying it's not easy doing what I do, is it? Look, you're going to vote for one of these people, probably Crazy Bernie. He seems to be leading. Mini Mike, I thought he might come up, but he can't because he can't debate. He wasn't meant for the camera, do we agree? How about Klobuchar? Did you see her? She choked. Alfred E. Newman looked at her and said something slightly derogatory. And she said, are you accusing me of being dumb? Who would make a statement like that? How about Sleepy Joe? How about his performance? What? It's great to be with the great people of Ohio. Joe, you're in Iowa. Oh, he's Sleepy Joe. He was sleepy a long time ago, but now he's really sleepy.
That is quite the summation.
Well, whoever the candidate is on the Democratic side, the president's already carved out a nickname.
You know, when you look at that montage, you think of here comes Godzilla. Godzilla versus all of the fleeing, bureaucrats. He's a very powerful campaigner. He knows where the weakness is. He laser focuses on the thing to easily mocked and repeated. This guy with the counter programming, he's brilliantly going out west, even as the Democrats have their caucus in Nevada. He's stealing the wind from, their sails, their thunder, whatever metaphor you want to use. I think he's shaping up to be a fabulous campaigner. But demographically, the country is split. Demographically, if he appeals to the traditional, or the Democratic nominee appeals to the traditional Democratic base, I think that this is going to be a hotly contested race.
Q poll, he's trailing in Michigan and Pennsylvania to every candidate, every Democratic candidate, but he's killing it in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is very important, but so is Pennsylvania. I think that Pennsylvania is shaping up, Lisa knows better than I, but it's shaping up to be the most important state in the union. As Pennsylvania goes, I would submit, because Ohio, my state, my new adopted state, is clearly in Trump's camp right now. Right. But Pennsylvania, I think, is very divided. And, you had that congressman in the western part of the state, the Democrat who ran as a centrist, who won. I think that phenomenon is very dangerous politically.
And numbers change once you actually have a clear idea of what the contest is going to look like. Also, we are, years away in political terms away from the November election. But I also want to get your thoughts on this, because the New York Times, as we all know, they ran this op-ed. And it says, "What we, the Taliban, want." And this op-ed is an opinion piece by the deputy leader of the Taliban.
Haqqani.
Yeah, what do you make of this op-ed? Should they have run it?
Well, I'm for more rather than less. I was in. I brought a picture. This is me with the 101st Airborne, one of my many stops. But between 2010 and 2012, we fought, or they fought, the 101st Airborne fought the Haqqani network all along the Pakistani border. Many, many GIs were killed. The IEDs they were using were especially wicked. Their violence is everywhere. But, it was Moshe Dayan, I think, who said, you make peace with your enemies, not with your friends. And when I spoke to the president last week, President Trump told me that a peace deal was close. He was pursuing it. He wasn't going to be overly optimistic, but he was going ahead. And it seemed to me that he was indicating that by the end of this month, that something will happen.
It sounds like it. But, Geraldo, what the New York Times didn't do was reveal that Mr. Haqqani, rather than a peacemaker, he's a wanted terrorist. $5 million leading to information and, his capture. And they never put that in.
Well, remember,
how do you leave that out, that he's been responsible for the death of a lot of people?
What about al-Baghdadi in the Washington Post? Was an aesthetic cleric? Is that what they called him?
Astute.
Astute. I don't know why they minimized that, but I do believe, hearing from these folks, I remember after I was with Ryan Crocker, the ambassador, our ambassador in Kabul, Afghanistan, when the Haqqani network attacked the embassy. We were inside and the mortars were coming down. Then afterwards, I got on the phone, our Akbar Shinwari, our fixer in Kabul, put me on the phone with the Taliban spokesman, and I said, it was basically, nah, you didn't get any of us. Your attack, coordinated attack around the country failed. So you want to talk to your enemies. I think that it's very important. And Haqqani, maybe he can transition into a leader of sorts.
You've had the most interesting life. And the New York Times, we want to get this statement in from the New York Times from a spokesperson. This is what they said. They said, "We've actively solicited voices from all sides of the Afghanistan conflict, the government, the Taliban, and from citizens. Haqqani is a second in command of the Taliban at a time when its negotiators are hammering out an agreement with American officials in Doha that could result in American troops leaving Afghanistan. That makes his perspective relevant at this particular moment." So that's what they had to say about it.
I ran into Neil Cavuto at the coffee machine, and we were talking about how long Erica and I have been together, 20 Valentine's Days. We've been together a long, long time. The next year, 2001, we went to war in Afghanistan. We're still at war in Afghanistan. 2001. It's almost 19 years. It's time to close this thing down. You're not going to win in the classic sense. No one's going to surrender. But if you can hammer out a peace deal that comes with reasonable security for the Afghan people, reasonable freedoms for the oppressed groups, particularly women in Afghanistan.
The most important part. It can't be a bastion of terror activity.
I think that is ironically, the reason we went there was to stop al-Qaeda from using Afghanistan as a base to launch attacks like 9/11. I think the Taliban is good because they hate al-Qaeda. I think that they will. I believe that the Taliban will stop international terrorist groups from using Afghanistan.
They'd have to change their philosophy.
But I think that
because their religion says they have to keep
the bigger danger is oppression in Afghanistan and dope. They're the biggest dope dealers on earth.
Well,
they sell more opium than the mafia. The Taliban is a big dope deal, and they've got to. I think that should be part of this treaty also.
Geraldo,
fascinating
thank you very much.
discussion. Thank you for joining us.